I'm picking Amen Thompson for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm doing it, man. I'm picking Amen Thompson. This year, I think he was the best defender in basketball. Granted, Victor Wembanyama got injured halfway through. Less than 6 feet on shots, less than 6 feet from the basket. Opponents shoot 9.7% worse when Amen Thompson is defending. Less than 10 feet, 9.5% worse. Greater than 15 feet, they shoot 5.5% worse. And that's because the dude is near the top of the league in block jumpers, altered shots. We've seen what he can do. Blocking SGA, contesting Stephen Curry every foot around on the half court. 94th percentile on matchup difficulty, according to B-Ball Index. He always defends the opponent's best player. He's defending guards, Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell, SGA, Curry, bigger wings, Anthony Edwards, LeBron James. He's even defended guys like Evan Mobley and Naz Reid, bigs, and he does it at an elite level, all while being an elite help defender. He's not just an on-ball stopper guy. He's jumps the passing lanes. He's an interior shot blocker. He has amazing hands where, like, in transition, sometimes a guy will be rumbling down the court and he swipes the ball, knocks it out of bounds, or just rips it out of their hands entirely. He's a transition stopper as well. He's a great help defender. And I think if you just isolate Amen in particular games, if you watch that Warriors-Rockets game, Amen was the more impactful defender than Draymond Green. You watch the OKC game, Amen was more impactful than Lou Dort. And I with Evan Mobley, I have him second on my ballot. I think Mobley is a deserving candidate, but I never watch him and feel that he is the NBA's best and most impactful defender. He's great. He's versatile. He's been part of a top 10 defense, but Cleveland's slipping defensively is in part why he doesn't win this for me over Amen. But Tom, that's my case for Amen Thompson. First on my ballot. I have Dort third for what it's worth. What do you think?
Yeah, dude. Amen Thompson's my pick too. I didn't think you were going to go there. I have Amen Thompson.
Amen.
Yep. Last week, I think I had last week. I mentioned that he was my favorite on this program. I said he's my favorite. He checks off more boxes than Draymond, Evan Mobley, and this is a guy who's the only player in the NBA top 20 in both blocks and steals. The versatility you talked about, where he's a point of attack, shut down Steph Curry the other night, and he's been doing that all season. Is that when you got a Ja Morant or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Brunson, whomever it is, he's the guy that they're going to throw at him to completely throw off all their first actions. And that is a thing that you can't say for Evan Mobley or Draymond Green. Draymond Green's greatest attribute in this conversation is that he has a podcast. I'm telling you, dude, he went from 0% chance, like it was 0.8% on Polymarket, 0.8% chance of winning Defensive Player of the Year until he had that comment where he's like, I deserve it 1,000%, have a case for Defensive Player of the Year. And then he became the favorite. Yes, he had a great game against Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, and that helped kind of drive that conversation. But the greatest thing that Draymond Green has going for him this year is that he is vocal and he has his podcast, and he started that narrative and started the campaign by himself. And I'm sorry, when you look at the defensive rating of Amen Thompson, it's 107 when he's on the floor. Look at the other defenders on Houston. You can say Dylan Brooks and Tari Easton, but I'm telling you, the Houston Rockets have a top 4 defensive rating this season with Alperen Sengun and Fred VanVleet on the floor for most of them. Who picked Houston as being a top 4 defensive rating team this season? Who picked it? No one did. You know why? Because they didn't see how good Amen Thompson would be as a 22-year-old in his second year in the league, dominating defensively and turning Stephen Curry into just another guy out there. He's been top 20 in both steals and blocks, only player to do that. His on-court defensive rating, 107, meaning the Houston Rockets are holding opponents to 107 points every 100 possessions when he's on the floor. That's better than Draymond's, that's better than Mobley's, and that's better than Jaren Jackson Jr.'s. And I would argue that those other 3 candidates, Jaren Jackson Jr., Draymond, and Mobley, have better defenders around them that can pump up that score, pump down in the case of a defensive rating where lower is better. Amen Thompson, best defensive player this year, and I would go Evan Mobley at number 2, Tamani Kamara at number 3, and Dyson Daniels right behind him. I think Tamani Kamara, second in the NBA in defensive stops, being a rim protector in ways that Dyson Daniels isn't. I would argue that he's been more impactful. And if you look at the defensive rating of the Portland Trailblazers over the last half of the season, he has been outstanding. We had him on the Big Number podcast. I don't know if you saw that interview, but Dan Devine and I had Toumani Camara on the pod, and it was awesome. It was great to hear him talk about his game and how he prepares as a defender. He's the only guy in the NBA who has defended both SGA for more than 50 possessions and Nikola Jokic for more than 50 possessions. So the versatility and the ability to not just steal the ball and disrupt your first action, but also to be the back line of defense, blocking shots. You watch that Paolo Banchero play and all the charges that he's taken. I think he gets the edge for me at number 3. But hey, I can't argue with Lou Dort there. Can't argue with Dyson Daniels. I just think at Draymond Green, he's been a good defender, not a great one. And by the way, I think this is right. I don't even think he's eligible right now. Draymond Green still has another game that he has to play in order to be eligible for Defensive Player of the Year, which throws me off. I'm like, dude, if he turns his ankle in the first minute of the game on Friday night, all these sports books that have him as the favorite, they're going to look very dumb because he's not even eligible right now.
Yeah, he currently has 66 games played. However, he has 3 games under 20 minutes played. Actually, no. Yes, he is eligible. He's eligible. Okay, so he has 63 games of over 20 minutes played, and he has 2 games between 15 and 20 minutes. So he has reached the threshold. He's reached.
So if you have 15 to 20, you can have one. I thought you can have 2 of them.
Two.
I take that back, Draymond.
He is officially eligible.
I'm not as good at podcasting as you are.
He's like, shut your big eye. Shut your third eye, Tom. Put away your numbers.
It is confusing because then there's like you can do like an injury like exception, file for like an injury exception if you fall short. There's weird things, but the point is Amen Thompson.
I'm in favor of the rule. I'm in favor of the rule, Tom, for what it's worth. But like, there's all these little weird qualifiers. It makes it too complicated. Can we just have it easy? 65 games, period. End of story. Like, what is all this stuff about 15 to 20 minutes, this and that? Like, just make it 65 games, period. And that's it. That's all.
Well,
Ty Jerome being eligible for 6th Man of the Year, but not for Most Improved Player, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And I'll just throw this out there. Another reason why I got Amen Thompson is because he's played 280 more than Draymond Green, and that counts for something, right, Kev?
It does. Yep, it does, for sure. And that played into my decision with first team All-NBA. I have Amen Thompson, Evan Mobley, Lou Dort. I also have Jalen Williams, and I have Dyson Daniels in the first team. So going to the second team, I do have your guy, Tom. I've got Toumani Camara on my second team, all defense, alongside Draymond Green, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ivica Zubac, and OG Anunoby. But Toumani Camara, the Blazers sent this Toumani Camara Defensive Player of the Year. Like, a lot of the teams send stuff, and Toumani Camara, they sent this. I'm going to give one away to a Blazers fan because within here for this Defensive Player of the Year. Goodie
while you do that, I will explain. There's a box, and the reason why it's a box is because Toumani Camara, that's his gesture when he puts when he stops a guy defensively, he puts his hand gesture, he does the box out there because he's putting the other scorer in a box. He's a guy that when you look at his defensive stops, he's combined steals, blocks recovered, his offensive fouls drawn. He is second in the NBA behind Dyson Daniels, but you have to put in his number 033 in order to open up that box. And what do you got in there? Show the people what you got.
You make waffles. You can make a Toumani Camara waffle. So if you're a Blazers fan who wants to make Toumani Camara edition box waffles, just respond to the post for this podcast on X. Just say 033 in response, and I'll randomly select a winner before ballots close on, I think that'll be Monday. I'll select a winner at random to receive Toumani Camara, Defensive Player of the Year, NBA award voting, recruitment, trying to sway me. They didn't sway me for second team, though. I already had him second team because he's been awesome, Tom, as you outlined earlier. Kamara's been absolutely unfreaking believable this year for the Blazers. And I feel it. And doesn't it feel like him overall as a player, that Camara, we already know what he is defensively, but offensively, like there's another level for him that he can reach over time with just how versatile he is and the number of different things he can do. I think this guy's got a chance to be like a really, like top 40, top 50 player in the NBA once he's at his peak. So yeah, I'm excited about Kamara. I want to talk a little bit about Draymond being on second team because I think some people are going to vote him to win. And I would say Draymond has been defensive player of the year caliber starting February 8th. The last 29 games of the season, he's been unbelievable. Opponents are shooting 10.3% worse on 2-pointers when Draymond is nearby since February 8th. But prior to that, they were only 5% worse, which is still good, but it's not defensive player of the year level. It was barely even all defensive level in the middle of the season when the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler and decided, hey, let's start trying. Steph got better then. Draymond got better then. But ultimately, this is a full season award. It is not a lifetime achievement award either. It's just not. And so Draymond, he deserves second team All-NBA in my opinion, but I don't have him in the top 3 for defensive player of the year because it's not a full season award. And, if he had played the way he did in the first half of the year, the remainder of the season, he may not even have been on the second team. It might have been a guy like Jason Tatum or Jaden McDaniels or Gobert or Caruso as a third OKC guy. It might have been Dylan Brooks or Derek White. Like a lot of these guys would have been in consideration. But for Draymond, I thought he had an amazing second half of the year. It's one of the reasons why the Warriors feel real. But you got to count in the first half of the year. You can't forget October, November, December, January, just because a guy's been awesome recently. If that's fair, Tom, like I think with all these awards to kind of have that mindset, you can't just weigh the second half of the year. It feels like recency bias to me.
Yeah, and let's just call it out for what it is. This was Victor Wembanyama's award. And I would venture to guess that if there was no 65 game rule, I think you might see people in a sympathetic way be like, dude, that guy was the best defender of the year by far while he was on the floor. And considering that a lot of these guys are barely getting to 65 games in the first place, you might see people be like, you know what? Because of the huge margin and the substantial gap between Victor Wembanyama and the rest of the league defensively, and you see what the San Antonio Spurs have done defensively since he's been out, that you might see people vote for Victor Wembanyama. So in many ways, I feel like this is kind of the consolation award. And I know Draymond Green has deserved to get more than one, but when you look at the full season, like you said, the full this season, this is not the best since Wemby went down. This is not the best since the Jimmy Butler trade. This is not the best since the last 10 years. This is about 82 games, who was the best defender, and Amen Thompson, in my book, has been the best defender. And I would venture to say if there was no 65 game rule, Victor Wembanyama might have won this whole thing.
I'm with you there, Tom. And, on the note of Draymond deserving more, maybe, like he's a generational defender. But like it's a regular season award and he's partially a generational defender because of what he does in the playoffs. And that's why I think there should be playoff awards, not just finals MVP, like the defensive player of the playoffs. Like Draymond Green might have 6 of those, you know? Like to me, that's something that is missed in the postseason. They gave out awards for the best defender of the full playoffs, the best scorer, the best offensive player of the full playoffs, and the finals MVP. All of these types of things. I would really love to see the NBA install. If you're going to have a clutch player of the award, you can't have that for the playoffs. I mean, come on. Let
me ask you this, Kev. Let me ask you this. Do you think Draymond would trade his rings for Rudy Gobert's 4 defensive player of the years? No, he's not. Not a chance. You know,
and I think Rudy would trade all of them for 1 ring. All of them.
Right. And you know, in Mad Men, when Don Draper is talking to Elizabeth Moss and he's like screaming at her.
Never watched it. I never watched the show.
Okay. Well, I'll just say
it's on my list for someday.
She wants more recognition. She wants more praise. And Don Draper screams at her and says, that's what the money's for. And in the same way, for Rudy Gobert and all his Defensive Player of the Year awards and Draymond feeling like he deserves more, that's what the rings are for. That's what the banners are for. Like, you can't have everything. And if you are going to trade, if you want more Defensive Player of the Year awards in the regular season, okay. But I'm just saying, Draymond Green, you've got all the rings. You've got all that notoriety about your defensive play in the 16 wins of the postseason. That's fine. That's what you play for championships for. And Rudy Gobert would trade all of those for just one ring, like you said. And so I think Draymond's right. He might deserve more Defensive Player of the Year awards based on the entirety of the season, if you include postseason. But that's not what the rule is. That's not what the award is. And I feel like that's what the rings are for Draymond. You can sleep at night with those rings. It might not be super comfortable, but I would imagine you sleep better at night because of those rings than if you didn't have any of those.